What's going on, everybody? My name's JohnYAY, and today I have a bit of a different video. Recently, I've been seeing a lot of these quote-unquote ugly drawings. There's Nick Shea, who made $1 portraits in Central Park, endless options on Etsy, and frankly, it seems art in general is headed in this more abstract direction. So I want to give it a try. As an artist, I think it's important to constantly be playing with different styles and forms of art. Not only because it's fun, but different mediums have different restrictions, which force you to think and adopt new techniques to overcome problems, which I believe makes you a better artist overall. And since I've been doing a lot of oil painting recently, I've decided to ditch the paints, at least for this video, and pick up a regular old pencil and paper. But why, you may be asking? I've always wanted to design a line of shirts. I love the idea of adding art to something that has function, but also original paintings can be expensive and out of the budget of most of your audience. So selling something like a shirt with your art on it can really fill in that gap. Plus, back in 2023, when I was writing my illustrated book of idioms, I was developing my own style of illustrations. And I wanted to bring that back and start playing with it again. Not to mention, Printful reached out to me and asked me to make a video about monetizing art. So how could I say no to that? By the way, this video is sponsored by Printful, but I want you to know I would have used them anyways. I even made this tutorial way back in 2022, all about organizing your Printful products on an online store. So we're kind of close business partners at this point. But first things first, I have to come up with a theme for the illustrations that are gonna go on these t-shirts, so I better get drawing. As I was doodling, I came up with an idea pretty quick. Since these drawings have to be kind of crappy, I figured I'd try and draw as many animals as I could from memory and use those illustrations on the t-shirts. So after a few hours of drawing, I was left with about 8 pages of sketches from which I could pick my final illustrations from. Okay, with all the sketches done, I think it's finally time to pick some of my favorites. I'm gonna do as many as possible, but if they're crappy, I'm gonna skip them. And it's time to illustrate them. So I'm gonna photograph them, bring them into Procreate, and then start to add that hard single line that seems to be common amongst all these ugly drawings. For this, I'm using Procreate with a slightly modified monoline brush. With all that being said, it's time to start turning these sketches into illustrations, which is really a relaxing task considering that I'm mostly just tracing over sketches that I already drew, making a few modifications here and there. I was going to make this time-lapse more interesting by drawing outside or something like that, but I don't want to glorify this process. The truth of the matter sometimes is that you just have to sit down in your chair that's falling apart wherever you get work done and make some art. My goal with these illustrations is to emphasize what I like about each sketch in as few lines as possible, which is actually what makes these ugly drawings more difficult than you think. Plus, I'm not looking at reference at all, I'm just doing this from memory, so there are going to be some mistakes. They are completed. Well, not exactly. If we take a look at this run-of-the-mill t-shirt that I got for $10 at Goodwill, you might notice something. On the front, we have a very small design, and on the back, we have a large design, which I think is perfect for all of the illustrations that I've already made. But that does mean that I'll need to make a whole new logo for the front of the shirt, one that's connecting all of the previous drawings under one cohesive theme and one name, which is gonna take some time, so I better get working on that. Back to the drawing board. After a bit of thinking, I came up with this name and design, Scribble Safari. You know, because animals and alliteration and whatnot. With the design all sketched out, it's time to polish it up and get it ready for the front of the shirt. Which, by the way, features my male and female characters on said safari trying to get each other's attention. I decided to add a small amount of color, which creates contrast and makes the characters stand out against the truck. Plus, I love the way red, black, and white play together. With the logo for the front of the shirt finally finished, maybe now is the time that I start to get Printful involved? Well, actually, I thought of one more thing before we put everything together. To spruce up the backs of the shirts a little more and lean into that comedic design, I thought it'd be fun to add some text to some of these illustrations. Nothing crazy, just enough to give them a bit more life. Just something like the early bird gets the worm, the early worm gets eaten. No need to panic. And don't push my button. With those additions made, I think it's finally time to start designing and adding these shirts to my website. Okay, I'm on my computer now, and I'm just gonna show you how easy it is to use Printful to add your designs to products and start selling them on your own store. So the first thing I need to do is log into Printful. So log into Printful, connect your online store, and once you've done that, you just click Add Product, and this is gonna show us all of the available products that Printful has to offer, anything from t-shirts to tote bags to water bottles to mouse pads. It's crazy all the products that they have. So
I organized a few of them into my favorite section, and we're going to use this Bella Canvas shirt. I really like this shirt. I've used it in the past. It's nice and comfy, and it's a reasonably low cost, so I think it's a good option for these shirts. Okay, now that the editor is loaded in, we're going to check out the product tab first. And this is just some general stuff. We want to make sure we're printing, not embroidering. We want to select the printing type, select the colors that we want. You can have multiple colors, but in this case, I just want white. And then select the size range, which I've selected all of them. Next, we're going to start adding the designs. So I'll start by adding my main logo, the front of the shirt logo. And I want to resize this to 5 units and put it in the top left corner of the shirt. That looks good. Next, we're going to add the logo to the back. So we've got one here, and I'm just going to have to drag it over from my file folder right onto the shirt. And there it is. I'm going to make sure that the position is centered, but it usually is, and it is. And I'm just going to lower this a little bit. I feel like that's a little bit too high on the shirt. So I think that's a good location. And just like that, the shirt's designed. So I'm going to hit continue, and we're going to have to select some mockups. Okay, the mockup page is loaded, and I'm just going to click basic mockups. From here, I'm just going to deselect some of these options that have already been selected. So I'm going to get rid of right, left, and right front because the logo's on the left side, which leaves me just with a front view, this sort of side view, and this back view, which is the view I actually want to be the main image because I want the first image that the user sees to be the back because the back keeps changing in this series of shirts. Next, we got to name the product. So we're going to call this Busy Beaver. That's good enough. And make that a capital T. I like to get rid of this portion of this automatic description just because it's a little bit cringe. And then we add a few tags, and then we can add it to the Scribble Safari collection and hit continue. From here, we just have to select the price. So I want the shirts to cost 30 Canadian dollars. So I'll just up the price slightly here. And then some of these larger shirts have larger costs. So I'm just going to make sure that the profit margin is the same with each shirt, roughly. And that looks good. So now I just hit submit to store, and Printful does all the work. It's generating the mock-up images, it's processing, it's generating print files. I'm just reading this thing verbatim, but the point is it's going to do a bunch of loading and automatically send this to my store. So once this is done loading, we'll take a look at my storefront. Okay, it's finally done loading. This honestly took like 30 seconds. And now I'm going to click over to my website, click on shirts here. And as you can see, the Busy Beaver shirt is already on my website. I didn't have to do anything on Shopify's end. It just automatically sent here. And that's how easy it is to make a product with Printful.
Which brings us to the end of today's video. If you liked any of the designs that I created today, and some of them I didn't even show you, you can find them all on my website, www.JohnYAYart.com. I really appreciate everyone who stayed watching to this point in the video. I can't stress enough that regardless of your skills and abilities, anyone can make art, and even nowadays, anyone can make products. So go out there and just give it a try. Shout out to Printful, who sponsored this video. They're the first sponsor I've ever gotten on this channel, so I really appreciate them reaching out and setting this up. And thanks so much for watching. Cannot wait to see you in the next video.